The Cleveland Browns turned their quarterback room into a disaster on Monday, and they did it less than 48 hours after Deshaun Watson stood at a podium and told Cleveland the booing was personal. Todd Monken named Watson the Week 1 starter against the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the same Watson who completed 5 of 12 passes against Buffalo backups 2 days earlier and threw an interception while the crowd booed him off the field. There is a first-round rookie on this roster whose NFL debut now lands inside that exact noise, and what happens to him should bother you more than the stat line does. Here is the verified part. NFL.com reported Monday that Monken named Watson the starter for September 13th in Jacksonville, and Monken told reporters Watson gave us the best chance to move the ball and score points. Watson carries a $46 million fully guaranteed salary in 2026, the final year of the $230 million contract Cleveland handed him in March 2022. Over the Cap lists his 2026 cap charge at $40.96 million after a fourth restructure. That contract is also why Cleveland shipped out 3 first-round picks and why a very different pick haul is scheduled to arrive in 2027. You get the full accounting in this breakdown. 2 preseason stat lines side by side, the 2025 season that built this roster, the departures nobody asked for, an offensive line rebuilt from scratch, a 2026 draft class worth taking seriously, and an honest record projection. No hot take shouting, no pretending the answer is obvious when it is not. If you want that same accounting every week this season, the subscribe button keeps it coming. Because the quarterback decision is the loud part, and it is covering up a roster question the AFC North settles by week 8. Start with the numbers, because Monken said the call came from the whole body of work. Against the Chicago Bears in the preseason opener, Watson went 11 of 15 for 126 yards, lost a fumble, and Cleveland walked off with a 34-10 loss. 8 days later against Buffalo, Shedeur Sanders started, completed 9 of 11 passes for 74 yards with a touchdown and an interception, and posted an 87.1 passer rating. Watson took over for the third quarter and finished 5 of 12 with an interception and a 14.6 passer rating. Now run the counterfactual. Strip both interceptions out of the Buffalo game and Sanders still walks away 9 of 11 with a touchdown drive, while Watson walks away 5 of 12 with nothing on the board. That gap does not close when you fold in the opener either, because Watson needed a full half against Chicago to produce 126 yards on an offense that scored 10 total points. I want to be straight about the context here. Watson faced Chicago's starting defense and Sanders faced Buffalo reserves, and 2 preseason halves make a small sample. Count the structural problems anyway, because they predate August. Watson has 19 career starts in Cleveland across 4 seasons, a 9-10 record in them, 3,365 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. He has not finished a full NFL season since 2020 when he led the league with 4,823 passing yards and threw 33 touchdowns to 7 interceptions for a 4-12 Houston team. That version of him was genuinely elite. None of it survived a suspension, a shoulder surgery, and an Achilles tendon he ruptured twice. The season that produced this decision explains why Cleveland stopped trusting everything else. The 2025 season is the spine of this whole thing. Cleveland opened with Joe Flacco under center, cycled to Dillon Gabriel by midseason, then handed Shedeur Sanders the job in Week 11 after Gabriel entered concussion protocol against Baltimore. Sanders became the 42nd different starting quarterback the Browns have used since returning in 1999, a number CBS Sports tracked the week he took over. He won his first career start, making him the first Cleveland quarterback to do that since 1995, and for about a month the fan base believed the search was finally over. It did not hold up over a full stretch. Sanders finished the year with 8 games played, 120 completions on 212 attempts, 1,400 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and a 68.1 passer rating. His best night came December 7th against the Tennessee Titans, 364 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game Cleveland still lost. Gabriel appeared in 10 games with 6 starts and threw for 937 yards with 7 touchdowns. The Browns finished 5-12, fourth in the AFC North, and scored 279 points across 17 games. The consequences landed fast. Kevin Stefanski was fired January 5th, one day after the finale, closing out 6 seasons and 2 Coach of the Year awards. Cleveland has gone 8-26 since its last playoff appearance in the 2023 season. The offense ranked dead last in the NFL in wide receiver yards. Andrew Berry kept his job as general manager and spent the entire offseason rebuilding around a quarterback room he never actually solved. What left Cleveland this year cut deeper than anything that stayed. Myles Garrett is gone, and that is where the honest grading starts. On June 1st, Cleveland traded the reigning Defensive Player of the Year to the Los Angeles Rams for edge rusher Jared Verse, a 2027 first-round pick, a 2028 second-round pick, and a 2029 third-round pick. Garrett had won that award twice in 3 seasons. He had signed a 4-year, $160 million extension the previous offseason with a rare no-trade clause attached, and Barry spent months insisting he would retire a Brown. Grade the return, and it holds up better than the emotion suggests. Verse is a 2-time Pro Bowl pass rusher entering his 3rd season, and 3 premium picks for a 30-year-old edge rusher on a closing window is defensible business for a 5-12 roster. It still removed the best defensive player in the modern history of this franchise, and it removed him from a locker room that needed leadership more than it needed draft capital. Joel Bitonio retired in June after outlasting every other player on the roster, which took a decade of institutional memory out of that locker room in a single announcement. The offensive line lost more than it kept. Ethan Posich left the center job open in free agency, and the unit Barry publicly flagged as the group facing the most turnover was effectively dismantled down to the studs. The defensive staff turned over as well once Monken installed his own coordinators in March. Every one of those exits pointed at the same underlying failure, which is that Cleveland could not protect a quarterback and could not score points. The replacements arrived quickly, and they arrived expensive. Todd Monken is the biggest arrival, and his story is the human hook here. Cleveland hired him in late January on a 5-year deal after 3 seasons running Baltimore's offense, where his units finished 4th, 3rd, and 11th in scoring. He turned 60 on February 5th. CBS Sports Research counted him as only the 8th non-interim head coach in NFL history to coach a first game at 60 or older, and most of the 7 before him lasted 3 seasons or fewer. His only prior head coaching job was 3 years at Southern Mississippi, where he inherited a program that had won 4 games in 2 seasons and left it with a 9-win year. The offensive line got the money and the urgency. Cleveland traded a 2026 5th-round pick to Houston for right tackle Titus Howard and extended him 3 years the same week. Guard Zion Johnson signed a 3-year, $49.5 million deal after starting 65 of 66 games with the Los Angeles Chargers. Elgton Jenkins signed for 2 years and $24 million after 7 seasons and 94 starts in Green Bay. Tevin Jenkins re-signed in March after starting 4 games at right guard late last year. Linebacker Quincy Williams signed inside that same window, and Mike Rutenberg took over as defensive coordinator with Travis Switzer running the offense. Those are legitimate upgrades on paper. Paper has never once protected this organization from itself, and a rebuilt line still needs someone behind it who threatens the defense vertically. The draft is where Barry actually took his swing, and it is the strongest work he has done in 3 years. Cleveland walked into the 2026 draft holding 2 first-round picks and spent both on offense. Barry traded the 6th overall selection to Kansas City, collected the 74th and 148th picks in return, and took Utah offensive tackle Spencer Fano at pick 9. Fano played 822 offensive snaps in 2025 and allowed 5 total pressures with 0 sacks and 0 quarterback hits, according to PFF. At pick 24, Cleveland added Texas A&M receiver KC Conception, who caught 61 passes for 919 yards and 9 touchdowns in his only season in College Station. The rest of the class filled real holes. Washington receiver Denzel Boston went at pick 39. Toledo safety Emmanuel McNeil-Warren came off the board at pick 58, and Florida tackle Austin Barber went at pick 86. Cleveland then added center Parker Brailsford, Alabama linebacker Justin Jefferson, tight end Joe Royer, Arkansas quarterback Taylon Green at pick 182, and BYU tight end Carson Ryan at pick 248. That is 10 players in total, and 7 of them either play offense or protect the person running it, which tells you exactly where Barry thinks this roster breaks. Here's the case for that draft. Fano steps into a left tackle job Cleveland has not solved since Joe Thomas retired after 2017, and 2 receivers inside the first 39 picks addresses the worst wide receiver room in professional football. Here is the case against it. None of that investment pays out if the quarterback throwing to them will not push the ball past 10 yards, and that is the precise question Watson has not answered since 2020. The young core is what makes this decision sting. Look hard at who Cleveland is asking to absorb all of this. Quinshon Judkins ran for 827 yards and 7 touchdowns on 230 carries as a rookie, before a dislocated right ankle and a fractured fibula ended his season in Week 16. Harold Fannin Jr. led every rookie in the NFL with 72 receptions, added 731 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns on 103 targets, and did all of it as a third-round pick out of Bowling Green. Carson Schwessinger led all rookie players in the league with 146 combined tackles. Mason Graham started 9 games on the interior of the defensive line. Denzel Ward earned a 5th Pro Bowl selection, while Grant Delpit, Fannin, Judkins, and Schwessinger were all named alternates. Jared Verse now joins that group as a 25-year-old building block. Jerry Jeudy is the outlier, catching 50 of 105 targets for 602 yards with 2 touchdowns and 9 drops, only 2 seasons removed from a 1,229-yard year. That first-round rookie from the top of this video is KC Concepcion, and his first NFL home game arrives Week 3 against Carolina on September 27th, inside a building that has booed this quarterback during pregame introductions since 2024. Denzel Boston debuts into that same wall of sound in the same afternoon. None of this is on Watson alone, and I am not going to pretend otherwise, because Jimmy Haslam called the trade a big swing and miss, and he is the one who authorized it. Cleveland still chose this. Rank the division honestly before you project anything. Pittsburgh went 10-7 last season. Baltimore finished 8-9, Cincinnati 6-11, and Cleveland 5-12 in last place. The Browns open at Jacksonville on September 13th and at Tampa Bay on September 20th. The first time since 1986 they have started a season with 2 straight road games. The home opener comes Week 3 against Carolina, and Pittsburgh visits 4 days later on Thursday night. Now stack the conditions. If Fano holds up at left tackle and Judkins stays healthy, Cleveland scores more than the 16.4 points per game it managed last season. If Concepcion and Boston hit early, the receiver room stops being the league's worst overnight. If Watson still cannot threaten a defense past the intermediate level, then none of the rest of it matters and Sanders takes the job back by Week 4. The biggest variable is not talent on this roster. It is how quickly Monken admits what August already showed him. My projection is 6-11, with Sanders starting at least 12 games and Watson off this roster by March. I might be wrong on that timeline. Here's the part worth arguing about. I think this Browns roster is a top 20 unit at every position group except quarterback, and the quarterback decision by itself cost Cleveland 3 winnable games. Watson said the booing has nothing to do about the performance, and after Week 1 in Jacksonville, that becomes very hard to keep saying. Drop your win total in the comments and subscribe before the Week 1 breakdown lands.